this session on the Assessment Toolkit, and I'm going to hand you over to Sally Marchant. Over to you, Sally.
Thank you very much. Morning, everyone. It's lovely to be here this morning, and looking forward to kind of meeting you all and hopefully having some good discussions and some good feedback today. So my name is Sally Marchant. My official title is that I'm a Policy Practice and Development Officer in the Quality Assurance team. It's actually a seconded post, so I've been seconded for a couple of years, and my role is to develop a pathway of support across children and families service for children with disabilities and their families. So today's presentation that I'm doing is telling you a little bit more about that. It's introducing an assessment toolkit that we've developed and currently trialling in practice. So the presentation kind of gives you an overview of the work that we've done so far and why we're doing it currently. So it is a pre-recorded presentation with audio, so I'll let you sit back and grab a brew and watch through it. It takes about half an hour in total. What I would ask is if you do have any questions, that you pop them in the chat so that we can go through them at the end, and we'll have a question and answer and kind of feedback session at the end. Does that sound all right to everyone? Has anyone got any questions before I play the slideshow and hope that it works? Are we ready to go? Sarah, if you could let me know if there's any problems with the sound or anything. Just shout up. Yeah, okay. So thank you everyone for joining me for today's session. So just to give you a run through the purpose of today's session. So it's to present an update on how we are working to strengthen our offer to children with disabilities and their families across Children and Families Service, to share the pathway for referrals for children with disabilities and their families, to introduce a new assessment toolkit that is currently being trialled in practice, and to hear your feedback on assessments and your thoughts on the toolkit. Your experiences and insights are vital in helping us shape and improve our services. Thank you for being here and for sharing your views. In order to understand the current offer of support available to disabled children and their families in North Yorkshire, it's important to first look at how our Child and Family Service is structured and the different teams that work within it. Each team plays a specific role in supporting children and young people, depending on their level of need and individual circumstances. We start with our Early Help Service, which works with families at the earliest opportunity. Their aim is to help families find solutions, build on their strengths, and access the right support quickly, so that children can thrive at home, in school, and in their communities. For families who need more targeted support, we have the Family Assessment and Support team. This is a social work team that carries out assessments to understand what's working well and what challenges families may be facing. They help families access the right services and work together to create a plan that meets the child's needs. When a child has complex needs relating to a disability, the Disabled Children's team may provide support. This team takes on the same responsibilities as other social work teams, such as assessments, planning and support, but with a focus on children with more complex needs around their disability. To be eligible for support from this team, a child must have a disability that has a substantial and long-term impact on their daily life, and there must be significant difficulties meeting their needs through family, community, or targeted early help support. This team ensures that children with complex needs receive the specialist help, adaptations and services they require. We also have the Child Permanence and Family Reunification team, which supports children who can't live with their birth families or who are returning home after being in care. The focus is on finding safe, stable and lasting solutions, whether that's returning to a family, living with relatives, or finding a permanent home through fostering or adoption. Several years ago, during a review of the services for disabled children and their families, we received valuable feedback from Parent Carer Voice. This feedback has played an important role in helping us reflect on and strengthen the support we offer across the Children and Families Service. Parent carers shared a number of key messages with us, which continue to inform our work today. They told us that they want practitioners who understand disability legislation and the real-life impact disability has on families. They ask not to be viewed solely through a safeguarding lens, but through a disability lens that recognises their lived experience. They also highlighted the importance of workers knowing what support is available and being able to guide families to the right help. For many, it didn't matter which team they were supported by, as long as they received the help they needed when they needed it. Some families told us they didn't realise they could receive support from the Children and Family Service if they weren't eligible for disabled children's teams. Others felt that the name of the Disabled Children's Service was misleading, as it suggested all disabled children and young people would be supported by that team. We also heard that families often need long-term support, not short-term interventions aimed at case closure. The language used in assessments and plans, particularly when safeguarding isn't the issue, can feel judgmental and not reflective of their reality. Some families found child in need support from their family assessment and support team intrusive, with too many visits and reviews that didn't feel necessary. And while there was concern with widening the criteria for disabled children's team, as it might dilute its specialist focus, there was a clear call for a better offer of support for those who aren't eligible for that team. This feedback has helped us to think more carefully about how we structure our services, how we communicate with families, and how we ensure that the support is accessible, appropriate, and respectful of each family's unique circumstances. Similar messages are also echoed within wider research, with families sharing that social care can sometimes feel more focused on risk than on providing support, and the system can be difficult to navigate when seeking help. The recent Law Commission review for disabled children and other research highlights the importance of moving towards holistic, co-produced assessments led by practitioners with relevant experience and ensuring that support is tailored to the unique needs of each child and family. The toolkit I'm introducing today is designed to help us make this shift by focusing on what support children and families need, working collaboratively and valuing lived experience. Our aim is to create a more compassionate, strength-based and inclusive approach to assessment and support. Supporting children with disabilities is a shared responsibility across our Children and Families Service. Whilst we do have a dedicated disabled children's team, it is important to shift the perception that all disabled children are automatically supported within this team. This assumption can unintentionally delay support or create barriers to access. Children with disabilities have a wide range of needs, and support should be based on their individual circumstances, not solely on their diagnosis. While those with the most complex needs may be supported by the Disabled Children's Service, many disabled children are supported across other teams, including the Family Assessment and Support Team, Childcare and Permanence Team, and the Early Help Team. We are working with all teams across the service to build a shared understanding of disability and to ensure that practitioners feel confident and equipped to support disabled children and their families. This means recognising that disability-informed practice is everyone's responsibility, not just the role of one specialist team. When a family or professional makes a referral to Children's Services in North Yorkshire, it is first reviewed by the multi-agency screening team. We've worked closely with this team to develop guidance that supports consistent decision-making when a referral for a child with a disability is received. The multi-agency screening team will gather more information and speak with the family to understand the child's needs and strengths, what support is being asked for, and what networks and resources are already in place. Depending on this information, the multi-agency screening team may signpost to universal services, refer to community-based support, or offer an early help assessment to explore available support options before statutory involvement. This early help approach allows practitioners to work with families to identify and assess support that is proportionate and tailored to their needs. However, we are also clear that where a Section 17 child in need assessment is requested, or where the child's circumstances indicate that one is required, we will carry out this statutory duty. Children with disabilities are automatically entitled to a Section 17 assessment under the Children Act 1989 without needing to meet the usual thresholds. These assessments are completed by a statutory social work team. Parent carer assessments must be offered if the parent carer appears to have support needs or if they request one. These too are carried out by a statutory social work team. So where a referral for a child with disabilities is accepted and there is a need for a child and family assessment or a parent carer's assessment, a decision is made about which team will carry out the assessment. This could be the disabled children's team or the family assessment and support team, depending on the child's level of need. To support this decision, the multi-agency screening team uses the Strengths and Needs Summary Framework. This is a simplified version of the broader areas of need that we will explore later in the toolkit. It helps MAS to consider the complexity of the child's needs in relation to their disability. Children with high or specialist needs will be assessed by the Disabled Children's Team. Children who need up to regular levels of support will be assessed by the Family Assessment and Support Team. Using this framework ensures that assessments are allocated to the most appropriate team from the outset. This helps avoid unnecessary transitions between services later on and ensures that families receive the right support from the right team based on their individual circumstances. So this brings me on to the Assessment Toolkit for children with disabilities and their families. So this toolkit has been developed to support practitioners across the Children and Families Service in carrying out one consistent disability-informed assessment for children with disabilities and their families. It's currently been introduced and trialled across teams and has been co-designed with practitioners from Early Help, the Family Assessment and Support Team, the Child Permanence and Family Reunification Team and the Disabled Children's Team. By using one shared toolkit and assessment across all teams, we are promoting a consistent approach to assessment and support, a shared language between professionals, clearer step across discussions between teams, and more responsive support based on the child's individual needs, not just their diagnosis, recognising that disability impacts children and their families in different ways. The toolkit offers reassurance that families will be assessed in a way that recognises the impact of a child's disability on daily life and development, while also recognising their strengths and abilities. The assessment is centred on the child's voice in decision making. The assessment ensures that the strengths and needs of parent carers is understood and acknowledged. It understands the lived experience of the whole family. It works to encourage building sustainable support networks, and it helps clarify what support is needed, including short breaks where appropriate. The assessment ensures that we are balancing the needs of the child with the well-being of the whole family, and it ensures support is allocated from the most appropriate team from the outset. So on the previous slide, I mentioned that the assessment toolkit helps practitioners to consider whether there is a need for a short break. So what do we mean by short breaks? So short breaks are opportunities for children and young people with disabilities to take part in enjoyable activities, try new things and spend time away from their main carers in a safe and supportive environment. These breaks are not just about giving families a rest, although that can be important. They're about making sure children have the same chances as others to have fun, make friends and develop their independence. For many non-disabled children, these kinds of experiences happen naturally. They might go to an after-school club, join a sports team, visit friends or have sleepovers. These activities help them build confidence and learn new skills as they grow. Some children with additional needs may sometimes face extra barriers to accessing these opportunities. The type of support needed will vary for each individual child. Some children may be able to join in with universal services like mainstream clubs or activities if a few reasonable adjustments are made, or perhaps a bit of extra support is provided. In some cases, support from family members or the wider network could help a child access activities in the community. Other children may benefit from services that have been developed specifically for children with additional needs, where staff and environments are better equipped to provide the right support. Some children may require one-to-one support to participate safely and fully. And for some children, a highly specialist environment adapted to meet their complex needs may be necessary. So how does the assessment toolkit help? The assessment toolkit is used to explore each child's individual needs, strengths and interests, as well as any challenges or barriers they may face. It helps practitioners, families and children themselves to think about what support or changes might be needed so that short breaks are meaningful and accessible. This approach is based on the social model of disability, which means that the focus is on identifying and removing barriers in the child's environment. By understanding each child's unique situation, the assessment helps ensure that the right support is in place so that all children have the opportunity to enjoy new experiences, develop independence and have fun just like their peers. In North Yorkshire, we offer support to families of disabled children to help them build and strengthen their support networks. We know that relationships and community connections are vital and that families may face unique challenges in maintaining these. As part of our service offer, we invite families to take part in facilitated network building conversations. Practitioners can offer to help families explore who is in their life and what support they may be able to offer. This includes using family scene tools such as family trees with culture, circles of support, or eco-maps, facilitating network decision-making meetings early in the process, encouraging open conversations about disability, care needs and help seeking, and providing education and training to extended family and friends to build their confidence, and supporting families to build trust and confidence in asking for and accepting help. Support from family and friends may extend beyond the child with a disability. It can include emotional support for parents and siblings, help with practical tasks, and social connection for carers. We also offer support around contingency planning, an essential part of building resilience for families of disabled children. Contingency planning means thinking ahead and preparing for situations where the usual support may be disrupted, such as illness, emergencies, or changes in care arrangements. Practitioners are encouraged to explore this sensitively with families, helping them to identify who could step in from their network if needed, clarifying what the child requires day to day, ensuring continuity of care and emotional security, and reducing stress and uncertainty during unexpected events. These plans are developed collaboratively with the family, recognising that they are vital in helping families feel safe, supported and prepared. As you can see from the example eco-map, we recognise that disabled children are often surrounded by a wide range of professionals. Each of these professionals plays a vital role in supporting the child's holistic needs. However, whilst these services are essential, it is important to recognise that the sheer number of professionals involved can place significant additional stress and pressure on parents and carers. Families are often left to coordinate between different agencies, managing various thresholds for support and ensuring that everyone is working towards the same goals. That is why we're encouraging practitioners to build a clear and accurate picture of all those involved in the child's life using tools like the eco-map, contacting key professionals early in the assessment process so that everyone's input is considered from the outset, working towards a shared understanding of the child's needs, ensuring that all relevant professionals and, importantly, the parent carer are involved in planning and decision making. Taking this approach helps us to identify existing support, highlights any gaps, and promotes more coordinated, effective care. This section of the toolkit is designed to help practitioners gain a holistic view of each child, their disability, and how it impacts on their daily life. Central to this is recognising the unique strengths, achievements, and areas where each child is thriving, insights that parents and carers are often best placed to share. The focus is on understanding the child as an individual, not just through the lens of their diagnosis. As the saying goes, when you've met one child with autism, you've met one child with autism. Every child's experience of disability is unique, and parent carers bring invaluable knowledge about what matters most to their child. This section is built around the principle that we want every child to be happy, enjoying life, safe, achieving and taking part. By asking what might life look like for a non-disabled child of similar age, practitioners and families can work together to identify where barriers may exist for the child. This approach draws on the social model of disability, focusing on the external factors that limit participation, not the disability itself. This section encourages everyone to think aspirationally and explore how we can enable opportunities for disabled children to thrive. This part of the toolkit offers questions and conversation prompts to help practitioners and families explore and understand each of the child's individual needs and strengths across different areas of their lives. Practitioners and families are invited to make a shared judgment about whether each need is met, partially met, or unmet. This is an important part of the process. A child may have significant needs, but those needs could be well met through a strong, sustainable network of support, whether from family, friends, community or professionals. Parent carers are often best placed to describe what support looks like in practice and what is working well. To support this reflection, the toolkit includes a scaling question that helps practitioners and parents carers consider how well each need is being met. This is not about scaling the disability itself, but rather the quality, sustainability and effectiveness of the support that sits around the child. There may be differences in perception between practitioners and families, and that's okay. These differences can open up meaningful conversations about experiences, expectations, and what support might look like moving forward. The aim is to work together, valuing both professional and lived experience to ensure that the best possible outcomes for each child. For each area of support, the toolkit then offers a range of suggestions for support, spanning from informal, community and universal services to more formal services. These ideas are designed to help families and practitioners work together to co-create solutions that are realistic, inclusive and tailored to each child's individual circumstances. The aim is not to prescribe a one-size-fits-all answer, but to spark conversation about what might work best for your child and family. Support could come from many places: family, friends, community groups or specialist services. By sharing ideas and experiences, families and practitioners can find creative, practical ways to help children to thrive. At the end of each area or domain, the practitioner and parent carer work together to reflect on what level of support would be needed for the child to achieve their wellbeing goals or outcomes. So just to show you another example of the toolkit layout, so you'll see that each domain follows the same structure. Scaling questions are suggested to help decide whether needs are met, unmet or partially met. Each domain offers ideas for support, and each domain asks you to consider the level of support a child would need to meet their wellbeing or outcome goals. As shown on the previous slides, at the end of each domain in the toolkit, you'll be invited to consider the level of support a child needs to meet outcomes in that particular area. The levels of support range from no support, additional support, regular support, high support, or specialist support. This step is really important. It helps guide professional judgment later in the assessment, particularly when they are thinking about which team is the right team to provide support. For example, if a child has a range of high or specialist unmet needs across multiple domains, this would indicate that they are likely to need more specialist services. In these cases, it's likely that the disabled children's team would be the most appropriate team to provide ongoing support. This structured approach ensures that decisions are based on a clear understanding of the child's needs, not just in one area but across their whole lived experience. By involving parents and carers in these discussions, we make sure that support is shaped by those who know the child best and that decisions are transparent and collaborative. Once the practitioner has gathered all the information from the child, family, network and professionals, they will then record it in the child's strengths and needs table. This section of the toolkit mirrors the format used in the child's developmental needs section, supporting the identification of both strengths and areas where parent carers may benefit from additional support. A scaling question is included to encourage open and honest conversations about what is working well and where challenges may exist. Assessments of parent carer strengths and needs may be undertaken by the Early Help Service to ensure a holistic approach. However, as discussed earlier, where a statutory parent care assessment has been specifically requested, this will be completed by a statutory social work team. The statutory assessment should be carried out alongside the child and family's assessment and inform its outcomes. The toolkit is designed to align with the statutory parent care assessment questions. This ensures that information gathered through the toolkit can contribute to the parent care assessment, helping to reduce duplication and ensuring that the parent carer voice remains central. This slide offers an example of the physical wellbeing section of the parent carer's needs. And this slide offers an example of the type of support that might be offered to meet any unmet parent carer needs. This is the parent carer's strengths and needs table. The practitioner is encouraged to complete the table based on the information they have gained from the parent carer. This helps the practitioner and the parent carer see areas of strength and resources and areas where there may be some unmet parent carer needs. The assessment toolkit is also designed to ensure that practitioners look at the whole family, not just the child with the additional needs. When supporting disabled children and their families, it's essential to consider the experiences and needs of the sibling as well. Siblings often play a unique and sometimes challenging role within the family. They may witness confusing or distressing behaviours, take on caring responsibilities, or offer emotional support to their brother or sister. At times, siblings can feel isolated, worried, or overlooked, as attention and resources are focused on the child with additional needs. Practitioners should remember that siblings who provide care are legally entitled to a young carers assessment under the Children and Families Act 2014. If a sibling has support needs, or if their parent carer requests it, a Section 17 assessment should be offered. In some cases, siblings may meet the threshold for child in need support in their own right. Support for siblings can take many forms, such as access to young carers groups, peer support, and opportunities for respite and activities. It's also important to recognise that support provided to the disabled child, such as a short break, can benefit siblings by giving parents more time to spend with them. Above all, planning an assessment should consider the whole family, ensuring that sibling voices are heard and their needs are recognised and supported. The Strengths and Needs Framework is a structured approach that helps practitioners bring together all the information gathered during the assessment. By mapping out both strengths and unmet needs, it enables families and practitioners to work together to target support where it is needed the most. Not all needs can be met by Children and Family Service alone. For example, some needs, such as those relating to health or education, may require input from other agencies. The framework ensures a holistic view so that the support is coordinated and no area is overlooked. This process also guides practitioners in deciding which team is best placed to provide ongoing support. The framework informs what we call step-across discussions, where after completing an assessment, a practitioner may recommend that another team, such as the Family Assessment and Support Team, the Disabled Children's Team, Child Permanence Family Reunification, or the Early Help Team, is better suited to meet the child's needs. Once we have developed a clear picture of the child and family strengths, as well as any areas of unmet need or challenge, the next step is to consider what support can be offered to help meet the identified outcomes. The process begins by bringing together the child, their family, and their wider support network to co-create a plan. This group works together to build a clear picture of the child and family's strengths, as well as any areas where needs are unmet or challenges exist. Support planning follows a graded approach. First, the family's own strengths and existing support networks are considered. Next, a range of informal and community-based options are explored, such as signposting to advice and guidance, accessing online resources, support or grants from charities or community groups, and voluntary support. If further support is needed, specific early help interventions may be considered, which could include regular support worker visits, parenting groups, or help accessing local activities. Only after these options have been explored are more specialist or statutory services considered. So one outcome from the assessment may be that the family and the network have got together and have co-created their plan. They're going to continue that family plan and do not require any ongoing agency-led support. Further outcome may be that an agency-led family plan with early help support and intervention is required. If the outcome of the assessment is that a child's needs can't be met through family, community, universal or early help services, the local authority has a statutory responsibility to provide support. Statutory support means services that the local authority is legally required to provide, and these are funded by the local authority. So how is statutory support provided? Statutory support can only be arranged and delivered through a social work team. The specific team will depend on the child's needs. It will be the Family Assessment and Support Team, where the toolkit has highlighted that the child has regular needs around their disability. It will be the Disabled Children's Team, for children with high or specialist needs across multiple areas. What can statutory support include? The support provided is always linked to the assessment of need and may include direct support for the child to access short breaks or activities, support in the home or community to help with daily routines or participation, help to access leisure opportunities or develop independent skills, or overnight breaks for children who need them. For children with more complex needs, access to specialist services such as the Children's Resource Centres may be available, which offer adapted environments and specialist staff. Training to practitioners across the service. A range of disability-related training is available to all practitioners, including sessions on communicating with disabled children, understanding disability legislation and safeguarding. Awareness training about the new Assessment Toolkit and support plan has also been delivered across teams, ensuring everyone is confident in using the new approach. To support ongoing learning and information sharing, we have created an internal SharePoint page where practitioners can access resources, guidance and updates. In addition, we are developing a champions group within each service and area. These champions will act as points of contact, offering advice and support to their colleagues and helping to build expertise across the workforce. This comprehensive approach aims to ensure that all practitioners are equipped with the knowledge and skills needed to support disabled children and their families effectively. This then draws me to the conclusion. Through this presentation, I've aimed to show how we are strengthening our support for disabled children and their families across the Children and Families Service in North Yorkshire. We want to ensure that disabled children are recognised as the responsibility of all teams, not just specialist teams. The new Assessment Toolkit introduces a single, needs-based approach across all teams, considering both the strengths and needs of the disabled child and their family. By using this toolkit, we have explained how decisions are made about which team is best placed to provide support, aiming to give parents and carers greater clarity and transparency about which team will be involved and why. We are also committed to providing training and awareness among practitioners across the service, so they can develop their knowledge and expertise in supporting disabled children and their families and better understand their lived experience. The toolkit is currently being trialled and feedback from families and practitioners will be vital in shaping its ongoing development. Our goal is to ensure that every child and family receives the right support at the right time from the right team.
Okay, I couldn't see the chat as we went on, so Sarah, I don't know if there's questions.
There's a few in
lots
there.
of questions. Do we want to go through the questions first, or just have a general chat about how people felt about the presentation and what the message that I was trying to convey through the presentation?
So for the I'm going to keep the recording going if that's all right, Sally, but if it gets a bit sensitive, I'll chop it out at the end, because I think these questions could be quite important. So I don't know, I think should we just go through the chat and then that might answer the questions and then see how we go from there? That's okay with you?
Yeah.
So I will keep the recording going. However, I will chop out bits, or I will stop at the end of Sally's recording if we're discussing sensitive information.
Just while you're going to the start of the questions, Sarah, I guess, I look at this and I know this comes up in some of the questions. It looks brilliant, don't get me wrong, it looks fantastic. But if you are new to the service and you don't know this exists and know who is going to be responsible for ensuring that your family, your child is passed on to this, and if who is going to inform you that this is happening, and what is the sort of the oversight of that, who is, if they don't do it, if you're not passed appropriately onto this service, what can you do to address that? Is there going to be a key worker that works with you to ensure that everything is going to take place that's promised? We're all very aware of delays, in support of our child when things are promised and don't happen. And there seems is there a professional facilitator who's going to support the family to access all this service?
So at the point of contact, you've got the contact centre, which is where a referral will initially be made by either a parent or a professional. So at that point, you're obviously having a conversation with someone from the multi-agency screening team about which is the right team to progress with whatever the referral is around. So as I tried to explain, it will either be that it might be the request can be signposted for a little bit of support. So sometimes we get referrals in that are more education based rather than social care, where people might be querying about education, health and care plans and things like that. So in them cases, we would signpost to people like Sendias because the referral's not specifically around social care. So it depends on the focus of the referral in, really. So if it isn't met through signposting, that's when we look at the early help team with parent carers and talk to them about what the early help team might be able to offer and what that might look like, and suggest that they do the assessment. Or, as I explained, if there is a specific request for a Section 17 assessment or a parent care assessment, that's when it would be allocated to one of the social work teams, either family assessment and support or disabled children's team. So if it's allocated to, if it's signposted, the multi-entity screening team will say, this is what we're suggesting that we do, and have that conversation with parents. If it's early help, you'll be allocated the early help worker who will do the assessment with you. Oh, sorry, I've just got a thing coming up saying that my computer scanning. So if it goes to the early help team, you'll be allocated an early help worker who would complete the assessment and develop the support plan with you and review that support plan to see if it's meeting need. Obviously, if you went to family assessment and support, you'd get allocated a social worker. And if you're receiving statutory services, that would sit within that social work team whilst them services are being provided. So you would be allocated a specific social worker. And the same with disabled children's service. So if it went to disabled children's team, it would sit with a social worker. They would be allocated to the child and family and would review that on a regular basis to check that the support is still working and meeting the family's needs. I guess one of the things
that you have been passed on, if it's your very first, if it's your child, you're new to this world, you go to the doctors and you kind of say, oh, I don't think there's something going on with my child, but I don't know what it is. It's different if your child is very obvious, you know, with a disability. But if you're, you know, who is going to pass you on to those teams? Who has responsibility for that? How will you know that this even exists and that the information is being passed on?
And I guess that's something that we're looking at in terms of the development of the pathway. Is one of the questions that I've got is about how we get this message across that we have this pathway and how you access it and what it looks like. One of the things that we really want to look at is our forward-facing information, but also helping other professionals know when to refer into the contact centre for social care support. So a lot of the some of the questions that I have for Parent Carer Voice are about how do we share this information in a way that's accessible and understandable for parent carers, because it's been quite a big thing helping practitioners to get their heads around it. But obviously we want then it to be accessible to the people that are using it, which is parent carers and children. So one of my questions was around how do we explain this process in a way that's accessible to parent carers.
Okay, we'll come to your 4-minute your questions in a second. Sarah, do you want to go through the questions that have come up on the chat?
Yeah, do you want to read them yourself, Sally, because they're quite long. I don't really want to repeat what's in there because some of it's quite sensitive.
But instead this was picked up by an almost attendance in school. Limitation referred to non-disabled children. It's difficult to Eleanor, do you want to talk about your question, or do you want me to just have a read through it and try and respond?
I'm happy to chat.
Yeah.
So basically, it was brought up at the HCP meeting in February this year. I asked about sort of extra support for my little one, and obviously a self-referral to social care. And one of the first questions they asked is, what sort of support do you need? Now that it's quite difficult to know what's out there as a parent.
Yeah.
And sort of I said to the person on the other end of the phone, like, and it was like, who do you want? Do you want a normal social worker? Do you want a disabled children's social worker? And I was like, well, my child's got high needs. She's non-verbal. Obviously she's got an EHCP. She's at an SEN school. And I was like, so disabled children's social worker. But then that decision was sort of not mine anymore. So I don't know whether the person on the other end of the phone is clinical, non-clinical, I don't know. But obviously we got a normal social worker, which was fine. But she says, I said, what are the sort of criteria, if you like, for the disabled social worker rather than normal? And she wasn't really able to sort of answer that question. She obviously didn't have access to this toolkit either, because she couldn't really. It was great. She gave me some charities to go to and stuff like that, which we have to self-fund and everything. But it's like this toolkit will hopefully answer the questions for that sort of social. We're getting early help now, and doing something around the family and things like that. But it's just, as a parent, it can be quite difficult when someone says, "What sort of support do you need?" And I'm like, "Well, we're on our own. You know, no family near. We need a bit of respite. We need some support in that sort of sense of the word." But I find if you're not struggling, and if you're just cracking on, it can be quite difficult to get any support. But just from my point of view, I think this toolkit will be really good, because it will give that non-disabled social worker that access of what actually we can do, and what organisations are out there that can help us. But it's just that criteria, providing that like would be useful for a parent to know, maybe.
I think it was so there is the criteria for the disabled children's team that I mentioned in the presentation, which is a child has substantial and long-term needs that can't be met by universal community and early help services. But I think that in itself is quite it's open to interpretation. It's difficult to know what it means, both for parents and for professionals. And I think this was one of the, I suppose, internal difficulties in terms of practitioners being clear about what that means and when they would be open to disabled children and when they would be open to a different team. So the toolkit is trying to overcome some of them issues. So it's really clear when you're doing your assessment about the level of the child's needs, and therefore which team is better placed. And then practitioners can have that conversation with families and with each other about which team it's going to and why. So that was one of the reasons why we've implemented or we're starting to implement the toolkit, so that practitioners are clear about who provides the support and what that eligibility looks like, and can have them conversations with parent carers as well, so that you're clearer about why a child is sat within early help or family assessment and support or disabled children. But also what the toolkit is trying to do is have one assessment, so that if you have an assessment by early help and a decision is made that it's going to step across to a social work team, it's the same assessment and it's the same information, so you're not having to retell your story to different teams. So I'm glad that you think that toolkit will help that, because that's certainly one of the aims, is to clarify when it meets thresholds for different teams. Thanks. Any other questions, Eleanor?
No, I just think obviously I put down, will this sort of be available for parents to access, even a flowchart of sort of what the criteria is for each, or just a simplified version. But I think you answered earlier on there.
So that's the next step. So at the moment we're trialing it with practitioners to see how it lands, to see if it makes sense to practitioners, get the feedback. But once we're clear of that process and we think that it's working, we will then look at the forward-facing information for parents and try and make that as clear as possible.
And I just said as well, maybe I'm a nurse myself, so I'm looking at it from a nurse's point of view as well as a parent. But just sort of maybe reviewing it with the EHCP, if that child has an EHCP. Is it going to have like an annual review sort of thing to look at it? Because that might be quite good for parents not having to go to lots of different sort of meetings and doing it around the EHCP. Just because we do it everywhere anyway for the EHCP, don't we? We do parent views, so I think that might be quite good to sort of incorporate it into that. But that's just a suggestion. That's not me teaching how to do your job.
That's a
suggestion.
No, that's a really good suggestion, and something that's already been looked at. So part of the pathway, we're looking at what we call practice standards, which is about how often we review the package of support that we've got in place, and how often we go out and visit children and families. And one of the things that I am including in that is considering the fact that parent carers do have a lot of other professionals involved and other reviews like the HCP. So where possible, combining them reviews so that there are less meetings that you need to attend. So no, it's a good point, and certainly something that we're incorporating into the practice standards in terms of meetings and reviews.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just quickly run through some more, Sally, if that's all right, and then we'll come to you, Olivia. I'll just quickly run through the chat. So Sharon said, the issue we found is that assessments and reports just take so long to get done and put in place. Also, the feeling of judgment by one social worker despite there being no safeguarding needs.
Yeah.
Are there other options for those children who are unable to be away from parents due to separation anxiety? There is a lack of provision for older children. Was this during the short breaks section? I think Sharon, did that pop up?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because you know, most of it looks like it's like activities away from home to give us as parent carers a break. But when you've got a child that can't go anywhere because they've not had access to any therapy, and dealt with their trauma, they can't be away from you.
Yeah.
But yet, as parent carers, you know, I'm a disabled parent carer.
Yeah.
So, you know, have my needs been taken into consideration that actually, yeah, I need a break, but I've got a child who can't be away from me?
Yes. So that's all about the assessment and understanding the needs of your child. So if they have separation anxiety or you have your own needs, it's about planning the support around the needs of yourself and your child. So when I talk about short breaks is something that we look to offer, but it can look however it needs to look. So if the support, for example, that is assessed is that the support needs to come into the home, then that will be put in place, because that's about looking at the needs of the child and the family. So we're not going to just say, oh, they've got to go off and do an activity club or whatever it is. It's all about looking at your family and your child's needs and thinking what's going to work best and what's the most suitable option. So it doesn't have to be that it is the child leaving the home. It can be as flexible as what, you know, every child and every family is individual. So we're not going to say, oh, if your child's got separation anxiety, she's got to go to an activity club. That's the whole that's the opposite of what we're trying to do, which is about looking at the child, looking at the family and saying what is going to work and what ideas have we got about how we can make that work.
Cool.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think my next one you've already answered, because it was on about asking about completing it, basically giving information once, because that's something that we're constantly having to give. You know, every time a new social worker comes in or you get a new caseworker, you're having to repeat everything. And it's exhausting.
So the hope is that this one assessment sits across all the teams. I know I explained this earlier, but so if your case was to move between teams, it's the same assessment and it's the same information. And I understand that it probably feels like quite a lot of information at the beginning, but I think if we get the assessment right and we've got that holistic approach and all the information from the beginning, that then stands it in good stead if it does move between teams.
Absolutely.
But I think I do appreciate that it is quite a in-depth assessment at the beginning, but I think that is actually helpful in the longer term, because all that information is there.
If parents are made aware of that, of like, this is the only time you have to give all this information, it's going to be passed out to everybody, you don't have to repeat this, then you've got that understanding that going, okay, I've only got to do this once.
And I think as well, it's skilling up the other teams, so like the family assessment and support teams, the more mainstream social work teams, to make sure that they're getting the right information at the beginning. I know someone mentioned that sometimes it is safeguarding led and there's no safeguarding concern, therefore we're going to close the case. We're trying to totally shift that narrative so that right from the beginning, if it's about a disability, they're getting all the right information using that toolkit, and it is based around the child's disability.
Absolutely, because that's one thing that, you know, unfortunately at the minute you are sort of lumped in with the safeguarding
and we're trying
to that are absolutely vital,
Yeah.
But we don't have safeguarding needs, and you do feel that judgment.
Yeah.
So to have that complete separation would be great where it's needed.
I think that's about where the training and the awareness and making sure that they are using the toolkit in practice comes in. And I think we're getting there. Obviously, it takes a while to shift people's perceptions and ways of doing things, but that's the whole point. We're at the beginning of the process in terms of the toolkit and rolling out the training. But actually, I think a lot of the feedback from the family assessment and support social workers is how helpful and valuable the toolkit seems, because actually they just needed that support to kind of understand how to do a needs-led assessment rather than a safeguarding assessment.
Yeah, and I think changing people's attitude seems to be the way to go, because other people I'm sure will have experienced this, that there is an awful lot of parent blaming out there.
And there's a lot of there's a lot of research about it at the moment, isn't there, in the kind of Law Commission review, and I think University of Leeds did a lot of work around it, didn't they? So, and I think that is because historically they haven't had the same level of awareness around disability needs and how you do a slightly different assessment. And I guess that's kind of that information and hearing kind of the feedback about how assessments feel is why we're trying to introduce this toolkit and change that kind of narrative. Like I say, it'll take time, but I think we're getting there, and this is kind of the start of the process. The other thing that we're looking at is, I just mentioned it before, but I'll mention it again, is about how often we go out and review children, because obviously the family assessment and support, historically they go out, they provide safety within the home, and then they're looking to withdraw their involvement. But if it's a child with a disability and we're providing support, it's long-term support. Usually once you put that support in, that social worker stays involved. So it's about thinking about how often they would review and visit families, because it doesn't need that same level of intensity that it would do if it was a safeguarding concern. So again,
making it clear as well to parents what they're actually putting in place. We're on our second one now, because the first one he left the post, but we've had 2 children in need meetings now.
Yeah.
And at a meeting, all I get is, oh, that's been dealt with. Oh, there was talk of like personal pay, the payments or whatever, direct payments. That's the word. Yeah. But I've had nothing to say, oh, this is the outcome of the assessment that we did.
Yeah.
Getting reports back from them seems to be like getting blood out of a stone, basically.
Okay. So that's something else we need
that
to
clarity of, this is what we've found, this is what we're able to provide.
Yeah. And having like a plan, like your
needs.
Yeah, having a clear plan that says this is what we're saying you need, and this is how much we're saying you need, and this is when. So that's something else that we need to look at developing. But I guess if they've got all the information from the toolkit and you're using that toolkit, that'll be a starting point. I'm also trying to help them understand how you would record support and services within care plans, so that's clear for parents and other practitioners as well. So thank you, that's really useful.
Okay, thanks Sharon. I'm just going to read them all if that's okay, Sally. You probably covered some of it already. Once this toolkit is fully rolled out, will a version of this be available to parents or carers and school Senkos?
Yes, that would be the hope. I know I've touched on this already, but the next part of the pathway is looking at forward-facing information and how we do that. I want to make it as accessible and as clear as possible. So we're gonna look at that, how we do that, maybe have the information available on websites and the local offer. I've also got a session with the Safeguarding Board next week, which involves partners from across different agencies, where I'm also explaining the toolkit and what we're trying to do in terms of the pathway. So it's trying to get that message out to health and education and other practitioners that are involved, so they know what the process is.
Okay, folks. Are you able to provide a draft for them to have a look over?
Yes, if that's helpful.
Okay.
So I can provide the parent carer section and the child's needs section that's used to inform the assessment. Would you like a copy of that to have a look through?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, if you send that to me, Sally, I can send it to everyone that's booked on this session. Sharon might have already covered this one. Is there anything in the toolkit to support parents in completing information only once, and that is then assessed by all professionals involved? Or to save parents time? Yeah, we covered that one, didn't we?
Yeah, I think so.
Wondering what happens if the parent/practitioner scales are different for an area.
Yeah, I mean, that is going to happen. That's life. Everyone has a different perception, don't they, about whether needs are met or unmet. I guess the scaling questions are an opportunity to have them conversations about why a practitioner might feel one way and a parent might feel the other. That their scaling questions are there as kind of prompts to help you decide whether you feel a child's need is met, unmet, or partially met. So they're not set in stone. It's just to kind of start them conversations together and try and come up with an agreed agreement about whether needs are met, unmet, or not met. But you'll be working with your practitioner, social worker or early help worker, so you can have them open discussions with them about if there is a bit of a disagreement.
Okay, the next one, I think we might have covered this one. What happens if the LA decide that a child doesn't need referring to social care despite that child having complex needs and disabilities?
So I think it's all about any child can be referred onto the contact centre if they have a disability and a parent carer is seeking support. So it's there's not a criteria as to as and when you can be referred to the contact centre. If a parent is struggling or wanting a bit of extra help, or the child is struggling, you can make that referral to the contact centre, have them discussions with the multi-agency screening team and make a decision about, where that referral goes and why.
Okay, folks. The next one we've covered, trying to tie it up with EHCP annual reviews. So there's only one, that's fab. What about the needs of the parents as well as siblings? So there was a slide, wasn't there, about siblings, but there was nothing about parents on there.
So there's the section about parent carers. There's a whole section on parent carer needs. So we look at the child's needs, we look at the impact on the parent carer, and then we also consider the siblings. So the point is that we're taking a holistic approach. We're not just specifically saying this is a child and this is their disability and this is the impact on the child. We're saying, okay, that's the child. What's the impact for the parent carer? And let's not forget that there's a sibling in there. So when we're developing packages of support, it's considering the whole family. It's not just looking at the child in isolation.
Okay. Will early help's blinkered views of getting a child back into school be addressed?
I'm not sure specifically what that means. Sounds like it's kind of family or child specific. Early help will be part of all the training on the toolkit. We'll have access to all the training facilities. As I said, we're kind of building up champions within the early help service that will be trained specifically around children with disabilities, and we'll have access to a community to ask questions. So I don't know if it's a specific thing in terms of an early help worker or experience of that parent carer that they want to.
Sally, that was me that asked that question, and it probably was, but it was several early help workers and the school nurses, and several other professionals, that their one aim, regardless of what my child needed, was that child had to be in school.
Right, I see.
Yeah, so they're not addressing the child's needs. Their only focus was, how do we get this child back into school full time?
Yeah.
So
and I mean, the toolkit,
again, is attitude.
Yeah, and the toolkit is advocating that you look at everything. It's not saying you're looking at one specific thing, and you're doing that with the parent care and the child, aren't you? So hopefully they'll have a much more holistic focus and perhaps understanding about the reasons why your daughter is struggling to get into school.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
What's the appeals process if the support isn't deemed to be needed, but the parent carer disagrees? Who holds the LA to account, and how? All the well-intended words in the world don't make the process happen as it's written.
So obviously you'll be working with whichever worker it is from whichever team. So if at the end of that a decision is made that you are not in agreement or happy with, you can have that discussion with your worker. They can have that discussion with their team manager. If parent carers are still not happy with that decision, they can follow the North Yorkshire complaints process if they disagree with any outcome from the assessment.
You've already covered this anyway, Sally. Will the teams also be trained to stop parent blaming?
Yeah, so that is the hope, is that the assessment toolkit is going to kind of change that narrative, move people from perception of looking at risk and safeguarding to actually what are the needs of the child and what does this family and child need in terms of support. And that's hopefully the shift that we're going to make over time with practitioners.
Okay, what if they don't receive the right support from the right team at the right time?
Again, it comes down to having them discussions with whichever practitioner has done the assessment and has done come to that outcome, and having them open conversations. And if you're not happy with that decision, like I say, there is the complaints process that can be followed.
Okay, there's a big one from Sharon now, but we might have already covered this, so I'll just read through it all. There needs to be a single pathway of access to support for our children. There is a lot of onus on parents to go and find out any information in terms of what support is available, and we are then searching blindly, not knowing what is available, and then having to go on a very steep and time-consuming learning curve to find out what support is available. I was asked what support we needed, and when I asked what is available, I was told, I don't know. That was early help and school nursing team.
Yeah. So the toolkit is giving you it's giving the practitioner and parent carers ideas of support that might be available. So hopefully that knowledge will increase. I think what is probably needed in North Yorkshire, and I don't know, Catherine, if you have any views on this, is almost like a directory of support, and I don't know whether that exists. I know there's been talk about the local offer and updating the local offer, and whether we can have one place where you can go and put your postcode in and find out what support is available. But I think that is definitely needed.
Yeah, it's something that is being discussed on the redesign of the local offer to make it so that you can go in there and find out what's available in your specific area, but then also what pathway, so not just your specific area, but what in general would support your child that might be out of your area as well, but that you can also access. We've got a local offer discussion with parents and carers at the beginning of October that we're going to look at that.
And obviously, as part of that local offer, we're looking at the social care section, which will include information about what I've been talking about today in terms of that pathway and how you access the support. I think historically what's happened is, like, practitioners that work in certain areas build up their knowledge of what's available in the local area, but then things change and things that don't become available, and it's about how we can pull that together into like one place so that it is updated, and you know that you go in there and it's going to be relevant and up-to-date information. So yeah, it's certainly something ideally that we would have potentially sat on the local offer.
Okay, sorry, back to the chat. Sorry to rattle on, but including what learning disability nurses can assist with would also be useful. Like, I didn't even know about them until I spoke with my social worker.
Yeah. So a bit more information about what each team might offer.
So like, so this was again me. That's why I said sorry to rattle.
That's all right.
But sort of, the social worker said sort of learning disability nurses can help with certain specific needs. So the three things they are going to help with is toileting, sleeping, and eating. Eating being the main one.
Yeah.
Because she's got very limited what she can eat. But again, I've got to go through I'm waiting for the nurse from her school to visit first, and then she'll decide whether it is something that goes to the learning disability team or not.
Okay.
But I think, like, you know, when you get your when you get your diagnosis and stuff, and they give you all these hyperlinks, it would be good to have information in that pack up about things like this, because I do think, like, there is a massive gap of knowledge, and even being a professional, I find it hard to find out what's out there, never mind being a parent and having a medical background. So I think it does need to be a little bit more out there.
A pack of information that you can share as part of that assessment process right from the beginning would be amazing, wouldn't it? It's just thinking about how that would work practically in terms of someone being involved, keeping that up to date and relevant. But I take your point. It would be good, wouldn't it, if that was available to parent carers rather than it just sat within the toolkit that the practitioner's using. I'll have a think about that. It's a good point.
Okay, thank you. So there's a message from Rob. Rob's now left though, but we'll answer his question. Early help isn't a statutory body. How does an early help worker doing an assessment satisfy section 17? Will disabled social services do another assessment? What if early help don't think one is needed?
So I'll have to break that down. So early help obviously will do the assessment toolkit, which is the same information that a statutory assessment would look at. However, it is a statutory responsibility. So if a parent carer is saying that they want a section 17 assessment or a parent care assessment, we have to provide that through the social work team. So it might be that the social work team complete that assessment, use the toolkit and gain all the same information. And then the outcome of that assessment might be that it goes down to across to early help for them to provide the support. But parent carers are entitled to statutory assessment. So if they're requesting one, they should be getting one. And the multi-agency screening team, so that's the team that look at the referrals in, are aware of that. So ideally you do your assessment through the early help team, so it looks at all the information. But if parent carers are clear that they want a statutory assessment, then we have a duty to provide that.
Okay, folks. There's a message from Susie, but she's had to leave early. I'm sorry, but I need to leave early. I haven't anything to add. The points made by the others cover my questions and views. I look forward to seeing this after the trial with the practitioners is complete. Thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to this pathway. Sharon, how would this work if professionals are split across 2 county lines?
Do you mean like, for example, in Craven, you've got a different health authority and ICB to another, or if you've got a school in a different area?
Yeah, that sort of thing. We've got health professionals in West Yorkshire, but we live in North Yorkshire.
Yeah.
So we've got, it's across the county, different counties. So yeah.
I mean,
is this going to be spread out? Yes, it's great for North Yorkshire, but are other counties going to take this on board as well?
In terms of professionals from other areas, I mean, we can do some awareness work with West Yorkshire professionals and the health team over that way. Doesn't have to specifically be just for the professionals in North Yorkshire. So we can look at that. I mean, a lot of that is about and a lot of that is about the workers in that area knowing who their partners are and working closely with them and making sure that they're invited to kind of child in need meetings or reviews and things, isn't it?
It's not always easy getting health professionals there though.
I know it's a bit of a challenge. But I think in terms of professional awareness, we don't just want to target it at North Yorkshire, do we? We need to make sure that it's across the board. So again, something to think about.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, just a couple more. If you already have an early help worker in place, but you feel like the support isn't quite what is needed, can it be upscaled?
What I would suggest is that you ask your early help worker to update their assessment using the assessment toolkit, and that will review how the support is going and whether there's any gaps.
Okay, Sharon. Again, Sharon, you should be part of our team. I have asked for years for a directory of support because the local offer page seems to be very confusing. Even the name local offer doesn't state what it's offering. I can see Catherine smirking at that.
Yeah.
We will be having some sessions. Did you say early October, Catherine, with the redesign and the local offer? We'll be pushing them out shortly.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's one more in the chat, I think. And we have no pathway for ARFID diagnosis and support in the area. This needs to be addressed too, but this might be more from health rather than social care, but more awareness is definitely needed.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, and then so that's it for the chat at the minute, and then just 2 hands up. So over to you, Olivia. Thank you for holding your hand up that whole time.
Sorry, I didn't know if to take it down or not. So, I mean, I don't mind being quite open and honest. We've gone through this situation quite recently in the last 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay. Was there a mention of a toolkit by any chance?
No, none.
Okay.
So what I will say is you have addressed it quite a bit, but I definitely think what is out there and available to us as parent carers is a must. We need to know, because I felt like I was wasting a lot of people's times and my own, to be honest with you. So I rang up. I didn't know anything about this. My son's got he's got high, complex, long-term needs, and we've been under pediatrician since he's been a couple of weeks old. He's now 5.5, out of school at the minute, as we were at tribunal yesterday. So I didn't know anything like this existed. I didn't know what support was out there for us. And I rang the contact centre, and that was my initial question: what support's out there? There was no answer to be had. The lady on the phone was quite, I mean, I'm not trying to sort of be judgmental myself, but she sort of, her attitude wasn't there, and she said, oh, I don't know if you'd even get to panel, or if the panel would get you a disability social worker. And I said, oh, can we try? She then went through a checklist, and her attitude when she realised how high needs my son is changed.
Okay, so this is the contact centre. This is the first person that you spoke to. It's not the multi-agency screening team. It was the contact centre, was it?
It was the contact centre.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe that's, sorry, I'm just interrupting, but I'm just thinking maybe that's something that we need to look at as well, because a lot of the work's been done with the multi-agency screening team. So once you've got past the initial contact, then you go to the multi-agency screening team. But I mean, it's unhelpful that contact centre talking about panels and stuff, because that's not relevant. So perhaps there's some work to be done right from the first port of call.
Or even if you could, even if the contact centre could say, look, I'm not really sure what is out there. I don't know, it's available here, here and here. I know that's getting looked at in the next few weeks anyway. Catherine's gonna be, helping with that. But that'd be so helpful, because then I could say, right, well, I'll have a look. If I need to come back to you and look at this, get referred to the panel, whatever, then we can do that.
Yeah, so there isn't a panel though, that point.
Oh, sorry, that's what you said. So whatever
no, but that's what I mean. The contact centre are already delivering a message that's not the right message.
Right.
So I think there's probably conversations to be had with the contact centre about when we're getting referrals in before it even gets to MAST. Sorry,
anyway,
carry on.
It's all right. So we got through this multi-screening discipline, team. They looked into it, and they did it the next day actually after I'd rang, which was brilliant, really quick, efficient. And the following day from there, so 3 days in, we got a call from the disability social worker to come out within the next 7 days.
Excellent.
She was incredible. I mean, we haven't gone any further because we're meeting his needs. My issue was I didn't know what was out there. Could there help with, there's nothing around where I live. I live in quite a rural area that there's no groups or anything that a complex need child could attend. So she was brilliant. I did want to put that out there, that the disability social worker that visited us was fantastic. Although the help wasn't available for us, she was brilliant, and we received a report within a week.
Excellent.
And it was a lovely report as well. She texted me saying, this is my email address if you need anything further. So it was just, the information just needs to be available to us before we go through all of that,
so that from the start what you need. Absolutely. No, and I take your point about the contact centre. That's perhaps something that we need to look at. I guess what we're trying to aim to do is that you get a similar service if that's the family assessment and support team that come out, or the early help team. We want parent carers to be saying, actually, they worked through the process with us, did the assessment. We want that across the board in terms of services that we offer. But I'm glad you've had a positive experience with the disabled children's social work team.
There was no judgment there from my side. I didn't sleep the night before panicking. Are they judging me? Is it something I'm not, you know? But she was so easygoing. She was brilliant, fantastic anyway, and answered all of our questions. And
excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Helen, you're next, please.
Hi there. I'm just wondering if a decision's made as a result of the assessment.
Yeah.
How easy is it to get it reviewed? When we moved up to North Yorkshire, which was quite a few years ago, and my son was a teenager at the time, we had an assessment, and it was, the feedback was, oh, you're doing great, you're managing, because we had help from grandparents who don't live in North Yorkshire, but they had my son for a sleepover once a week. And then after about a few weeks or a couple of months, his behaviour just got really bad. And in retrospect, it was because he'd hit puberty. And we couldn't cope with him at home, and my parents stopped having him overnight. And it's how, if these circumstances were happening under this assessment, how soon can we get an assessment reviewed? Because suddenly there's no family support, and our house was being trashed, and you know,
so obviously the assessment is only based on what the situation is at the time, and we know that people's situations can change, or perhaps family members that are supporting, suddenly it becomes more difficult, or that networks changes. So if there is any change in circumstances or change in the child's needs, so you talked about your son's behaviour becoming more difficult to manage, things like that, if you're already open to a team, you would be saying, can we have a reassessment please, because things have changed? Or if you've not been open to a team, it would be going back to the contact centre and being clear that you've had an assessment, but actually your circumstances or your child's circumstances have changed and you need a reassessment, and that'll get you back onto the process.
Right, okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. That kind of led to
another question.
It's not directly related, but I'll leave that for now, because I think there's other people have questions. Just about how under adult social care, you can go online and request an assessment for social care, but you have to be over 18. But it's very easy through the North Yorkshire website to request an assessment, but the process for children or under 18s is it's very obscured online, and it's like, oh, you have to contact us, and you know, I think going through the contact centre is a bit of a barrier. If you could offer it online, I think that would be fantastic.
So I do know that they've developed an online children's form to make referrals in. I don't know if you've seen that or not, Helen. Perhaps not if your son sits in adult services now.
Oh yeah, he's in his 20s now.
Yeah. So there is an online form to make a referral for children's. How easy and accessible that is, I don't know if anybody's tried to complete that online form. But I do know that they've developed that in children's services as well.
I think I'll have a look.
Yeah, have a look. Let me know your feedback.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that.
Over to you, Sharon.
Yeah, it was just a final question that come up of what happens when with this toolkit and all the information that they've got. I'm assuming it would just automatically be passed over to adult services, because I've got a child he's 16 now, you know. So he's heading that way, and I'm like, if this is in place, is it all just going to get scrapped and we start again with adult services? So you've got to start the whole process again.
Is he already open to a social work service? Or
yes, he is. Yeah.
So what happens is a referral can go into adult services for a child with additional needs at 14. So I don't know if that referral has been made or not. So the practitioner would put the referral in. The idea behind doing it at 14 is that children's services have regular meetings with adult services to say, these are the young people that are potentially coming through into your service that you need to be aware of. So the adult services don't get actively involved at 14, but they're aware that potentially a referral is coming through. Right. And then at 17 and 3 months, adult services will do their assessment. So the idea is that the social worker from children's services will update the assessment using the toolkit and share that assessment with adult services. So again, adult services have that information and they can inform their adult care assessment with the information from the toolkit.
Oh, looks like I need to go back to the social worker.
Yeah, maybe just a reminder that she needs to get that referral into adult services.
Yeah, I think he's quite new in post. We've only had him for a few months now, but yeah, he's done. This is what I'm saying about like clarity in reports and things. We've had meetings and I've still not seen his report.
Okay. What I would say, Sharon,
that's good to know that would be passed to adult services. I think it was probably the prior social worker that should have done that assessment to adult services and didn't. Yeah. He didn't do much.
What I am looking at as well, Sharon, while we're talking about post-16 and preparing for adulthood, is adapting the toolkit for children that are post-16, where we're looking at planning into adulthood, because obviously the questions would have a slightly different focus, and also to align them more with what the Care Act assessment will be looking at 18. So that is something that I am looking to develop. I'm seeing how the toolkit as it lands works first, but yeah, my idea is that we have a 16+ focused assessment as well.
Oh, that would be really good, yeah, because that's it. You've got, there's this part there, and then suddenly the swapped into adult services, and you're like,
it's a hard time.
We're starting all over again, because I'm literally just doing my own referral to social care, because again, the onus is on me to do that rather than a social worker coming and going, can we do you an assessment?
And I think
you're left to do it yourself.
What we can do in the assessment toolkit is prompt practitioners to understand that referral through to adult services at 14 and 16, so that they make sure that they're following and are aware of that process. So yeah, I think that is something that we'll certainly look at in terms of the toolkit and pitching it at 16+.
It would be great to have one for adult services as well. Just a duplicate.
So I mean, that's quite a hard task because they sit under completely different legislation. But certainly, if we can make our children, certainly if we can make our children's assessment align more with what adults will be looking at, and that information's there, then it can just be passed on to adult services again, rather than you having to go through all that again with another adult worker. So
that sounds great. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I just hope the the process is a bit easier for me, but I don't think it is. It feels like filling out PIP forms. It's not good.
Yeah, it's a long process. Well, hopefully we can make it a little bit easier with some of them developments.
Yeah, thank you. This looks really good. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sally.
Everyone.
Very much appreciated. So I'll send the recording out to everyone that's booked on this session later on this afternoon, hopefully, or if not, tomorrow. Sally, you were able to send us the draft bits and pieces that we mentioned earlier?
I'll bring you some of the forms, and then we can get some direct feedback on kind of the questions that we're asking and whether we need to add additional information in or pitch it a little bit differently. So yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Great. So we can send out, so this considerations of the parent carer form, actually we've answered quite a few of those in the general discussion, but it'd be good to send this slide out with the additional info so that people can feedback more in in a considered time when they get the opportunity.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We can do that. That's a good idea. Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.